What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. We are getting started here.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
Can you hear me?
I sure can. Get your volume down.
Yes, I do.
Got it. Me too. Dope.
All right. We're back in action.
That was quick.
That was quick. It was nice. I know. So welcome everyone to another Tuesday. It's 6:30, so we're gonna get started. As everyone keeps coming in, we have today's episode. It's Why So Serious for the Legacy Project. And when we were talking about this episode, you brought up just kind of having more of a fun side, fun aspect. You know, me and you have very similar personalities where we are very rigid and certain times we like to get to the point, straight to the point, and not have a little bit of free flow. And so it's kind of a bit of an edge for us to get relaxed and enjoy that playful state, over time. And I think for me and you, we really wanted to just share like a different part of us, a different part of who we are, and just see like where this would take us. So we have a bunch of cool stories that we wanted to share and shed light on that we haven't really talked about before, and kind of just break the mold about who we are and where we're going. So I'm ready to kick it off with you today if you're ready.
Yeah, I am. And what's we're gonna go into some uncharted territory here. I'm already feeling a little angst, to be honest with you, because I'm thinking like, where can we go with this? And I just remember always feeling like I had to be on. And it was brought to my attention quite a few times in my life of why I'm so serious and how come I don't smile. I get it to this day. So when I do a post, one of my good friends, Jason Salinas, he's like, "Bro, smile a little bit more," and I'll get DMs from people, friends, "How come you don't smile?" And what's interesting is I remember pictures of me when I was a little boy. I used to smile a lot, and then for whatever reason, life happened to me. I don't know if it was when I was a little boy, a baby, something happened to where smiling became unacceptable. I don't know who told me that. I don't know where it came from. Uh, but it became, is it echo? You hear the echo?
Yeah.
Let me take this microphone off. Maybe that's it. Okay, that was it. Uh,
Okay. We'll have to test that later.
so I just remember feeling that I couldn't express myself for whatever reason. And so, anyways, yeah, we'll explore it and figure out what this malfunction is going on with this damn thing. But yeah,
So here, I'll mess with this a little bit. I know where it's going. So we'll try this. Cool. Can you hear me now? Yeah. Yeah, I remember it's funny actually Clinton got was giving me crap about it today because we did a little commercial yesterday for our other podcast and we were messing up a lot and it was just funny, just being weird. But in between everything, after a while I stopped giggling. I was like, okay, let's just get it done. And he's like, dude, you were serious the entire time. You were trying to get so focused. I'm like, I know, I can't help it. It's just weird for me, like when I get into that mode, it's like I just want to keep going, keep going, keep going. When I went to Compass too, they were trying to like make because we had never met everyone in person, so they had us do like games and stuff like that too. And I was like, all right, let's go to the next one, let's go to the next one. And everyone was like, why do you do that? And I'm like, I don't know, it's a game. I want to get better at it, you know? Like if I'm there, that's my sole focus is to like get better like immediately. I don't like to chit chat in between, you know? I just want, all right, let's go next one, let's go next one. And so it's tough if it's like a resilience factor coated with this like drive for competitiveness. I think that we both have. I don't know if you feel that way, but for me, it's like I have this desire to just like move on so quickly. And I think it developed in basketball actually because I'm already so hard on myself. I had to just like shut it. The quicker I shut my own inner dialogue off, the quicker I can move on to the next thing. And not everyone's on that same page, especially when working as a team. So I think and this kind of might be where we go down the line too about the individualistic portion rather than working with the team. And like, I think the outer projection of people is like, oh, you're so serious because you you want to like perform at such a high level that it makes it difficult for other people to relate to that too. And this might be, yeah, it might be like you watch the Jordan documentary, right? Where like he had this different drive about him, and like he had to push himself to be like the to be like the to be the best player, you know? And so I think it's just a different mode that you get to.
I'm glad you're talking about this.
I'll just mute myself.
Switch it off. As we're talking about this, these flashbacks playing basketball stuff, or even in baseball, for whatever reason, something happened that when I tried to have fun, I had a bad game. I'm not sure if it's a correlation. I'm not sure if I was called a hot dog. I don't know. Something happened to where the only time that I thought that I played better was when I was more focused. I didn't laugh. I didn't, you know, mess around in practice or at the games. I was so dialed in that part of me, I think over time, um, displayed this, okay, this is how I have to show up, this demeanor. And I think what happens as you get into older, get into college and you get into work is maybe I correlated that playfulness and funness as a distraction as opposed to being able to really use that and not stress myself as much out, because when you are focused, you do get tunnel vision. When you are focused, I would get only see one thing, and that could be not only paralyzing, but it could be could have blind spots. And so yeah, it's just interesting that as we're talking about this, I can remember a game when I was in high school, two games. One where I tried to have fun and I ended up turning the ball over like 10 times because I was kind of just floating and having fun. And another time I got so dialed in that I didn't smile or shake anybody's hands. I just wanted to go beat. It was Grant. I wanted to just beat that team, and we ended up beating him. So I don't know if there is a correlation. I don't know if it is has to do with that, but I know that for me, it had to do with more of again the singular focus, meaning that if I'm not if I show the way for me to show strength is by showing that nothing affected me and I just had a stoic face. If I was too playful, then for whatever reason, I would get hurt and not play very well. That's just interesting. We're talking about this right now.
Right. And then on the flip side too, I know it's like when I get into flow state is like when I can be the most playful, which is it's kind of interesting. It's like when I get so mad, I get that tunnel vision and I don't focus, but then at the same time, if I'm being like really flowy, it kind of ties into it. So I don't know where it is. Like there's some like middleman between for me is like I have to be able to have some sort of creativity, but then like have it in my own direct way. And I don't know where it comes from. I really don't. I think having a little bit of that edginess, but then using it in my own way. That's the only I don't know how to describe it. It just feels like this is a different mode that I get into. So I remember now that we're talking about this too, is you you had an experience at I think Nugget or something like that. Someone came up to you and was like asking like what going on. Do you remember a time when like you felt like you could kind of like let go of like that seriousness and like how that made you feel? And did it ever like did you ever think you could go back to just like having more relaxation, or is this something that has to be ingrained in you to take it that
So
next level?
it's interesting you say that because I think um I'm gonna use a desert experience. I think I've been I was always aware that I was always serious. And everybody tells me like, dude, you're a fun guy, you're funny, when I'm hanging out with you. For whatever reason, I always revert back to this stoic face or seriousness. And I don't know if again, I'm glad we're talking about this because I don't know if it is a defense mechanism. I don't know where it came from, but I had a similar experience in the desert. I remember when I was in the desert because I had a broken leg. I was really hard on myself. Like because I wanted to, I had this feeling like the men, even though I was there, it was all me. Even though I was there, they wanted me. They voted me to be there. I contributed the best I could. I was involved in everything, but I still had this feeling of inferiority. Like I'm the oldest. I'm a weak link. I am. Um, I can't perform at a level because my leg is broken. If something were to happen, I can't, help anybody. I'm helpless. They got to help me. And so I think it was this inability to really have compassion. And that was the first time I heard that word, dude. Like that I remember. Like I remember the men saying, we're all sitting down, and they're like, Albert, like one of the things I notice about you is like you don't have any compassion for yourself. And I didn't know what that meant. And I was like, what does that mean? Because I know what empathy means and sympathy, and they're all kind of similar. And what I've turned out the words is sympathy is being able to relate to somebody. Empathy is the ability to feel with somebody. Compassion is the ability to suffer with somebody. I don't know if you've heard that before. Like the word compassion literally means to suffer, with suffering. And so I was not giving myself this ability to let go. And I think that's part of what shifted for me now as I'm getting older. You see me, right? I'm Buddy the Elf, right? I was Buddy the Elf this past year. Your dad would have never done that before, right? So I have expanded myself. I have expanded my creativity. I've expanded the person that I think I am, because most of it is my thought of what people are going to think about me. I'm at a point in my life where I still care. I can't say I don't care, but I care less that what people think about me, because the feedback I got when I was Buddy the Elf for Christmas, I was for 5 days, dude. I wore that fucking silly ass outfit. I would have never done that before because it would have been a stretch for me. Oh, I don't do that. My ego, no. And I did it this past weekend at the parade, and it was so fun. I had so much fun. And all the little kids were like, buddy, buddy, buddy. I'm like, they know that I have a beard. It's not Buddy the Elf, but they all played, and I was giving them beads. And so I think what the lesson that I've really learned is I can play both roles. It's just that I have demonstrated, I've programmed myself that this mode of stoicism and seriousness is also my form of safety. It's a safety mechanism that I've created, that when I'm like as serious and I'm this way, no one's gonna fuck with me. Or I have this shield that that's on me, that's gonna protect me, because once I open up and I smile, that vulnerability, now I'm subject to criticism. Now I'm subject to the unknown. Now I'm subject to chaos. And for me, chaos equals fuckery. Does that make sense? Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. 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 So I got a question for you. So now that you're an adult, right? You're 25 years old, going to be 26 here soon. Do you remember a time when, I mean, if you look back when if you can, 10 years old, 15 years old, I know you were 17, there was stuff going on. Do you do you have a memory or something for you where you kind of made a decision to where I'd rather show seriousness than show happiness, that I'm really happy.
That's a good question. I mean, I can show like I just remember sadness. I couldn't show
Yeah.
that. I think I've mentioned this before to you. Is like after a game one time when I missed that shot to it was just to tie it too, but
Mm,
still, I remember I cried and you'd gotten on to me about crying afterwards because I was just upset with myself that I missed that shot. I'm trying to think in terms of happiness. I mean, I didn't think I wasn't happy. I think that's what it is. I think it's more of like I just don't show the joy as
mm,
much as other
yeah.
people do. Um, because for me, I'm happy when I'm competing.
Yeah.
Like that's when I'm happy. Is like I just want to like go out there and just play. And that's to me is like how I interact with people. Even now, like I'm still that way. I want to just keep playing. That's what brings me the most joy is like testing it out with other people because I am in so much in my own lane, you know? And I think that's been like one of the hardest, newest things for me is learning how to be competitive with myself, but not like treat others as competition. Like that this new age of thinking of like you have no competition. And I don't know if it's new, it's I guess because like Buddhist thoughts and stuff like that too. They talk about that where like you have no competition, you're your own competition. That's hard for me to understand because like, okay, then what's the point if I guess you can test yourself with your previous self, but if you
Yeah.
don't actively write it, actively like think about it, it's hard to um, motivate yourself in that regard. And so I know I'm going on a tangent, but let me circle it back to like just the sharing that joy. It's hard for other people to relate because I internally am processing that as something else rather than externally showing that with other people.
Yeah. How do you now, we'll kind of shift a little bit. How do you manage your pain? What are some things that you do now? Because when you're 9, 10 years old, pain is different. Pain could be you stub your toe or you didn't get what you wanted because you can play your video game, whatever that is, right? That could be your pain. But as a man now, how have you learned how to manage your pain, and what are some of the coping mechanisms that you have? Do you have a way of showing happiness or creativity when you're in pain?
Yeah, that's another good question. I feel like compartmentalizing the right way for however that looks like has been the biggest thing that I've always learned how to do it.
Mm,
But the thing with it is you put it in that box, you know, you put that in
mm,
that storage unit, you have to address it still.
yeah,
And so even this is one way I do it, like where we can just have these small little interactions just to share what's really going on.
yeah, yeah,
I have a men's group on Mondays where we share a little bit of our life where I feel like I'm heard, feel like I can help other people too directly
mm,
in their lives. So that puts a mirror in front of me to be like, okay, like they're going through this. How does this relate to my life?
right,
And can we work together on this common problem that might integrate into my life
right,
somehow?
right,
And
right, right.
so I feel like helping people is the easiest way for me to do it. And then I don't journal as often as I would like to, but that's always been a backup. I probably do it about once a week now. It's not as often as I would appreciate it, but just
Mm,
doing that is enough to just expel that energy that is tied up. And then having certain like peers in my life that I can just talk to every now and then. Um, and just let them know. I feel like we hold so much
yeah,
inside and we text it, you know, and it's not the same as if you actually speak it out. That's been the biggest thing for me is really just giving that energy out to someone and not like just spewing it, but working through it, you know, because there's something different about just letting it all out and releasing it rather than like working through it and then figuring out how can we fix this issue, how can we learn from it, and then put it back into our lives.
yeah. No, that's a great response. And it's interesting. I didn't know how to deal with pain for years. I used alcohol. I used anger. I used projection. I've used complaining, blaming, all the things I talk about. I used my parents as excuses, as scapegoats. And I think, 2020, talk about this has allowed me you know, when you guys weren't talking to me and I was on an island and it was so much isolation going on. I just realized that was the first time that I acknowledged it. Man, I got myself here. I got myself here. And when you do that, when I did that, put that mirror on me, the level of pain that I felt, because then I had a coach and he was kind of walking me through it. I just remember, bro, I'm just telling you, like, I remember February and March and April, I just cried most of the time when on the phone. And that was the first time that I used crying as an outlet. Like I would just on the phone, just be bawling on the phone. I remember one time, dude, I think it was in March 2020, and I was thinking about everything that happened with the ex and what happened with you and what happened with I think what happened with Kaylee and and he's calling. We're talking on the phone, and I couldn't stop crying, dude. I was just like, it was just, and what I realized it was this mountain of guilt, mountain of shame, mountain of everything. I don't remember crying prior to that, probably for 10, 15 years. I never cried because I just held it in. I got to be a strong guy. I got to be, you know, and there's a lesson there. I just packed it down, packed it down, packed it down. So then when I had the ability to have someone actually listen to me and hear me out, the fucking floodgates just poured open. That was the first time that I was able to feel that crying in that capacity, call it mourning. I think it was more mourning. I was mourning the death of what was about to happen that I didn't really know. And then when I went to the desert allowed me to mourn, not in a crying way, but more in a forgiving way. Like, okay, that was who I was, and now I literally have an opportunity in front of me to kill the old self in a spiritual way, and then move forward. And then that's when the anger, I just remember the anger released, all the anger that I had for my parents, you know, for what I had, what I was going through, what the ex, all that stuff left me in the desert. I actually just left it there just because of the rituals that we had to do. I won't talk about those, but the rituals we had to do when we had to let go. That was the first time that I felt that, oh, I can control my pain. And the more that I go to this truth that you and I've talked about of what I did and how I was accountable and the things that I did, not my parents did, or not what the exes did, or not what's up with your mom in a divorce. Like, what was my role? When I started centering around that, that hole got bigger and bigger and bigger to where like, wow, like, okay, I have something to work through. And there's a lot more. I stopped focusing on everybody else and I started focusing on how can I just keep going through that pain. So like now I'm aware of it.
Yeah, I had a quick question of a little pivot
Yeah.
because there's a lot there with
Yeah.
the holding that pain and stuff like that. You talk about, or we have talked about, like managing the inner child that's
Yeah.
being there. Um, you shared a little bit with me as well on the backside of what you do to embrace that inner child. But I
Yeah.
guess touching with the desert, specifically, did you learn how to embrace the inner child? And you talk about different times of reaching manhood at different points in your life.
Yeah.
Did you forget about the inner child when you left the desert, or how did you learn how to bring
That's a
him
no, that's a
to your
great
life?
question. No, I actually Stefanos really kind of started telling me about the inner child. I kind of knew aware, but I didn't know. And so the inner child really didn't start developing until after I got out of the desert. Because I got into another course. I got into a coaching course that I didn't know that was the foundation of my coaching of learning how to talk and how to relate to others. What I found though is the one child that was running my life up until I was 48 years old was my 6-year-old child inside of me. And that came because the memories, and I share a lot about it, is the memories that kept coming up had to do with the last year that my mom was in my life and all the pain that I went through and how I just felt unloved by that woman and by the scenario and what was happening in my life. And I can tell you that that little boy, um, let me back up a little bit. When the first time that I recognized there was an inner child problem was right when I got coached by Stefanos. It was in January of 2020. he had me do something called the empty chair process. And basically, the empty chair process is where I'm sitting right here and I have a chair and there's an empty chair over here and I'm role playing, but I'm not just talking to the other chair. I have to go sit in the other chair and become that person I'm talking to. And so when he walked me through that, I did it on my own. Like I remember I was just crying. I was all these things. And I was my 6-year-old child, my 16-year-old person, and then it was the ex that I had to talk to. And that experience with that inner child allowed me the awareness that that person was real inside of me. I just remember I'm sitting down and I'm asking him questions, and I knew it was him. The lights are off, the candles are on. I go, "All right, little man, like, what's on your mind?" And I didn't know how I was going to go. And then I walked, it was about 5 feet away, and I sat in the other chair and I just sat and I just remember like getting transformed. Now, those of you that know this process, you can be like, he's full of shit. You can think whatever you want. All I know is I started talking like a 5-year-old boy, 6-year-old boy. And I just remember telling him that I was really mad. I was like, I'm really mad at you. And I don't know what other things were said, but the little boys don't talk. When they're scared, they don't talk. And I just sat there. And then actually I kind of got out of it and sat back down as an adult. And I'm like, what are you really mad about? And I went back. And he says, you keep hurting me. And he just was quiet. And he's like, you keep letting women hurt you. And they're hurting me. You're not keeping me safe. When are you going to stop? And I sat down by the other side and I go, what am I doing? I didn't know. And he went back over there. And he's like, you keep giving them all of you and you don't give me any attention. And I'll leave it there. But that was the first time I recognized, oh my God, there's a little boy inside that I've neglected my whole life because I'm trying to be an adult. And it was the first time that I was like, this little motherfucker, excuse my language, is sabotaging everything. He wants to be heard. And the more that I would get involved with women, stemming from even before I met your mom, and then the women I dated, every single one of those, again, I'm not saying I wasn't at fault. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is there's things that happen in these relationships where I overgave myself and never gave the little boy the attention he needed inside. That was the first time the inner child that I realized that he was real.
That's powerful. You haven't shared all of that with me.
I didn't. I thought I did.
Not the details of everything of that. No. You showed me the exercise and some of the stuff in between.
Oh, I thought I did. I'm so glad you got to hear that then.
Not the back and forth. I thought you were just talking with them, but you were living it.
I was living it.
Yeah. So wow, that's crazy. Just to hear it live is just literally going back and
Can I go into something else?
What's up?
So here's a profound part. This is when I really knew he was real. So the next exercise I did was with my 16-year-old self. Okay. Completely different dude. Because at that time, it was right after I got in a fight with my dad, right? You know that story. So I took a half-hour break. I kind of withdrew a little bit. I was super emotional, dude. Like I was just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I got to do more. I was like, it was like this adrenaline rush. So 16-year-old guy sits down. I remember this vividly, dude. And I was like 16, okay, what's going on, dude? What's on your mind, right? I go sit down and this dude sits down. He's like, dude, you look fucking old and you look tired. And I laughed. I sat there and I was just like, and I went back to my chair and I was laughing. And I sat back down, went over on the other side. I go, so what's on your mind? And he goes, I don't trust you, motherfucker. Like, you still have proven that you are not looking out for me. And he's like, I just don't know if I'm going to make it. I don't know if I'm going to kill somebody. I don't know. Like, he's like, I don't care. I don't care about anybody. I'm so mad. I'm so angry at my mom and my dad. I'm angry at you. No one has ever protected. He like came out with full force. And I go back to the chair when I sat down and I go, this is where I think the belief system of myself really was born. I'm really glad I'm talking about this because it's coming back. I sat down and I'm like, here's what I'm going to tell you. It's going to be rough. It's going to be some hard times. You're going to be a young dad. You're going to get married and have kids. You're going to get divorced, but you're going to figure it out. And I sat back over and he's just like, we'll see, or I'll be in jail. Talk about like, bro, and so that's when I recognized that all of these people inside of me were upset with one person. They were upset with the man that was making the decisions. And I think that's where I learned how to develop this fathering method of myself, right? Which is here is what my mom said, or just hypothetically, a mom would say, here's what a dad would say, but I know what I need. I just never followed that. I'm following everybody else's advice, not knowing that this higher self knows what he needs. I just avoided it or just ignored it.
Yeah, that's what's coming to my mind too when you're specifically when you were talking about your 16-year-old, 17-year-old self is like it seems like he wasn't even like mad at you, it was more of just mad at like the family that was going on there, you know, and so it was just coming out at you like where are you? Where's my father at? And that was the first thing that popped up is like, okay, that's the connection is we have to learn in some way.
Mm.
What does it mean to father yourself? What does it mean to take care of that person that is there?
Yeah.
Because the kids, certain parts of the kid is coming, certain parts of the teenage is coming, certain part of the young adult is coming into play.
Yeah.
And then it's like, you got to make sure that all these people are here because you have the protector side of you, and then you have the kid side of you, and then you have this desire to want to be a father because you are going to be a father at this time or you already are. And all these different pieces of you, these personalities is like, it feels like it's multiple personality disorder, but you're physically extracting it out and then putting it together to be like, who is this person? Who is Albert?
Yeah.
And all that meshes.
So I'm curious with you now that you're settling with that for a minute. If you want to take a moment, like how has these stories impacted you on seeing not only yourself and practices you might be able to do? Two-part question, but a little bit more about me.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about who I can share this with too. Is like, what can I do to did it play trauma? That's interesting. We'll dive 1 second, and then we'll answer that question. I think for me is just like instead of trying to attack the whole problem, dissect on where it might have been. I think locating the time frame is really crucial because context is key, right? And so I might be holding on to a story or two that I had and trying to address just the storyline, but maybe addressing the context of it too, rather than just addressing the issue. And that would allow me to reach a level deeper, you know? And trying to really role play like who was that person back then rather than judging myself of who I was from this new version. I think that might be different for me after hearing this and that might allow for me to even just go into the wise to serious topic, just be more like compassionate with them and learn and be like, okay, this is what I was going through back then. It's okay like that it happened rather than like just relying on the hindsight being 2020, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's the first thing that kind of pops in. And the second thing is who can we help during this time frame too? Is like there's a lot of people my age that don't know how and like what that means to them. Like we hear all the time about fixing that inner child work, but what is the context of that person and can they not just run away from it and just keep perpetuating this problem? Like what can we do to actually address the issue, you know?
That's a great point. And we'll answer Chris in a minute. We'll get to your question. So just want to parlay on this. So something also came up about 6 months later after that, as I went to this program, is I started recognizing I had certain triggers. I had certain things pop up. Like I remember as a kid, I used to build models, like little models, glue models. And I just had this urge. I'm like, it was like this anxiousness. And I sat down with myself. I go, and my little boy, I go, hey, bud, are you good? Like, what do you need? And all I heard was, I want to go build models. I want to build models. And I did that when I was 12, not 6. So I went out and bought a model. Now I never completed it. It's still here, but I started working on it. And it was amazing how I was able to kind of just dive in and feel like a little kid again. And then another incident, I remember I was literally sitting on my couch and I was like, heard his voice. I want to watch cartoons. I'm a 50-year-old man. And my favorite cartoon was Bugs Bunny and Woody Woodpecker. And this voice was like, I want to watch cartoons. I want to watch cartoons. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I didn't understand. I was like, oh, that was when I was 6. I love cartoons. So I went on YouTube, bro, and I found fucking Woody Woodpecker and I watched it for an hour, dude. You don't know. I watched it for an hour and I literally was like, oh my God, like all these little voices. And the last one was, I remember one time he's like, the little fat kid in me was like, I want a hot fudge honey. I want a hot fudge honey. You know, I love fucking ice cream, but I was going through a diet and I go, you know what? We're gonna compromise. We're gonna get a gelato. So I took myself to get a gelato, dude, which just has low calories and ice cream. But it's amazing how I just became more aware of these little things these little feelings I would have that it was a trigger or it was a taste or it was a smell or going through something where I've had to learn how to accommodate at times this little inner child.
I know more and more I give myself grace for that portion of it. And exactly, yeah. It's really just going back to that inner child and feeling how we can be playful with it too. I don't play basketball as much as I love to anymore. And it's just fun just to kind of do that every now and then. I love cartoons too. Like when you share that with me, I think I've watched more cartoons since then. Like Tarzan's one of my favorite movies, Lion King. I've watched that
Yeah.
a handful of times since then. And it's just like finding the small stuff to like kind of relate back to your child. I think that's why things that are nostalgic are so heavy for a lot of people is
Yeah.
because they want to go back to that, you know?
Yeah.
And so again, not judging yourself to go back there, but then find the context of what it really means to you, I think is really crucial rather than just feeling comfortable just to feel comfortable. You know, that's hard to always like not want to judge yourself during
I
that time
remember,
frame.
I remember talking to your aunt Val about a year and a half ago. She was going, or 2 years ago, where she was going through it, and is where I learned how to coach women. So coaching women and coaching men are way different. Coaching men, I can be direct. Coaching women, I have to kind of go around
Mhm.
because I can't be
Yeah.
as rigid and direct. And we were talking about something, and she was really sad. And I go, "What does this remind you of?" And she said something happened when she was like 6 years old. And I go, "What was your favorite place? Maybe like Happy Place. You remember like Happy Gilmore? What was your favorite Happy Place?" She goes, "I remember having like My Little Pony or something like that, right? Like a blanket or it was something like that, or Strawberry Shortcake, one of those girly things back then." And I go, "When's the last time you held on to something like that?" She goes, "It's been years." I go, "Here's an assignment for you. I want you to find what you're looking for. You could probably find it online at Walmart or Amazon. And then I want you to write about it and sleep with it, right?" She ended up doing that. She called me back. She's like, "Oh my God, that was really powerful. Like that little girl, I forgot." So this is for everybody. I think this is my theory. I think a lot of hurt people, yeah, we get hurt as adults. Okay. I'm not denying that, but it also stems from things in childhood that we were neglected. And you're my son, and I know there's things that I've done. We still have to work through that at some point in time because I'm not perfect. Parents aren't perfect, but there's things that your mom and I or myself personally did to you or affected you in some way that I'm a part of. And I think we as adults now have to go back, and it's our responsibility. It's not our fault what happened to us. Okay. It's not your fault that what happened to you, what happened to me, but it's for damn fucking sure our responsibility to figure out a way, not just to heal that part, because we don't fully heal, but it's to really address that deficiency that we have within us that's causing this chaos. Because you're going to find the more hurt you are, the more that little inner child person comes out to fuck things up really bad, because there's this attention that they want, and there's this need to feed this person who's not getting what they need. We just happen to do it as adults. See, when we're 6, 7 years old, we'll fall on the floor, we'll do this, and we know our parents are going to come back to us or do whatever. Someone's going to do something for us to get us attention. We don't have the luxury anymore. So we do it by sabotaging things or saying things or knowing we're going to get a reaction. That way we can get that response we did as a kid.
Right. And that is just as what Christian was just asking about too, is how do you uh break away from the victim mentality, is just to touch on it, and is again, it's not your responsibility of the environment, especially when you're younger. If it's in your adulthood life, that's where some of the responsibility comes into. You have to break away from that environment if you're able to, right?
Yeah.
But what are we going to do to not perpetuate that problem?
Yeah.
And that's the hard part, is if you're not aware of what that problem is at the time, and um, again, if you have certain traumas or triggers, that could put you back into that mold. And so again, not just being aware, but also how are we going to take action with that too, is so difficult when it's so easy to go back into that.
Yeah, and Kristen, I'll address your question. So here's what I did, and I put it in my book, by the way. It's on my book if you guys want to get it. But I learned, so one of the things I had to deal with as an adult was these things that happened to me as a kid. I saw things I shouldn't see as a 6-year-old from my mom. She was in drugs and she was into men. I saw things my dad did to women and to myself and other people: violence, destruction, abuse, physical, verbal. Is I had to really learn how to stop absorbing every story that I told myself or told other people. Because when I told stories, I would get so absorbed in it that I would be in the story, and then it would affect me for a week. What I had to learn was I could still tell the story, but now do it from a perspective or observation of what was going on in the story. So I had to learn how to not get absorbed by the story, but observe the story from a bird's eye view. That way I can see all parties. For example, there's a story I tell in my book about my parents, in chapter 1, at the brick house. There's my dad, there's my mom, and there's me. And there's all these things that are going around. I had to learn to not live in the victim mentality of what happened when it happened, but what was going on with each individual and what I saw, and then what I saw the outcome of it. That is it's a really important way to extrapolate the emotion out and deal with the objectivity of it. Because when you're absorbing, you're subject to all the emotions. When you're objective or observing, you get to take yourself out, and you get a better understanding. What we need isn't the emotion to be played. We need to get the understanding so we can get the emotion out and be more logical, so we can now interpret things in a way where they're not absorbing this hurt, but observing the event that happened so we can sift through it. That makes sense.
I think too, what you talk about, the absorption part of it, is even the way we talk and speak, I think is crucial. And that I want to add on to what you're saying is, if we keep talking about this story over and over again, we are internally perpetuating that problem too, That's why I think it's interesting if you hear someone talk about the same problem multiple times, after a while, that could just be they just want the attention, or they don't know how to go through and actually dissect it themselves. And maybe that's a call for help. I don't know. But I've noticed, like, if I'm saying the same thing over and over again, and you've shared this as well, is like, if I feel like I'm having the same problems and I keep repeating it, and it's like 2 weeks come by, 3 weeks come by, a month goes by, you're like, hey, dude, like, is this something you actually want to address, or you're just like sharing it? Then you get caught up in that story. And I think I've never been a talker really. I think that's one of the reasons why, is because if I notice I'm gonna blurt out something, I want it to be set in stone. I want it to be backed. Because if not, I know myself, if I don't actually truly believe it, I'm not gonna go pursue it, right? And so I think this is where it kind of gets caught up in, like, the desire to want to be so serious, is because, like, if I do say something, I want to go after that rather than just put it out there into the ether. And because I know once I say it, I have to go chase it. I have to put that extra pressure on myself.
Yeah, yeah. And I love what you said, because here's my experience also, and this is where I think you and I share the similarities, is I know family members that joke all the time. They don't take anything seriously. So it's like they don't take shit seriously. They're always joking. They're always making fun of things. Like, when do you take a serious? But that's their coping mechanism. is to deflect and not get serious about it, because when they're serious, then they get angry. We use it differently. Like we get serious, we get focused. We don't get angry, we get focused, because when we get too, fluffy and funny, then now there's chaos that we can't control. So both are the same response, right? But we just deal with it differently.
Yeah, it's funny how I would rather have fun after I know the job is done,
Yeah.
and so I think that's where it's hard to always relate to people too, is like, I don't know, I can't break the mold until I feel like I know everything
Yeah.
is in line, and everything else is taken care of.
Yeah.
So I know we're heading towards that dipping point. What's one big thing that you've kind of taken away from today's episode?
Well, let me tell you this. For everybody that's watching this, I did a post today on Facebook, and it's a picture of me and you at Dodger Stadium on 4th of July, right? It was 2021. And I think Julio took it. You and I are hugging each other, right? And I just remember that because that was that week. Well, it was after you and I had a little confrontation in Newport, and I got flashback. I go, wow, like that picture really. There's 1,000 words you can say with that, because people look at us now and they're like, yeah, you guys got a good relationship. But I need to stress this. It wasn't like this. Yes, there was a great foundation. I was a really good dad to my son. But then there was years where I let him down, and I really let a lot of people down. I hurt a lot of people. And it was really hard, but needed for me to make changes so that I could have my son in my life and my kids in my life. It doesn't matter where this goes, Albert. Like we talked about this. I don't give a fuck where this goes. Yes, I would love it to go where it needs to go, help more people. What I got out of this was a deeper desire to keep sharing with you. Like a deeper desire to where, like, I thought, because I tell you a lot of stories. I thought I told you that story of the empty chair when I was 6 in detail. And I'm so glad that I didn't. I'm so glad we got to share it now, because I just saw you, how you responded. This is why I'm doing it. I get to talk to my adult son, who's a man, who's still a little boy at times, because I am. And I get to share with him so he could see himself and look at himself and do some self-reflection and learn from the failures that his dad did, and or learn from coping mechanisms his dad did. I don't know any other man on this earth that's doing that right now with his son. So I'm getting I was a little low in frequency, if I'm just being really real. When I got on the call with you, didn't feel it, but something was a little bit off. And I just feel really energized from this episode, that we didn't went down this rabbit hole that we didn't know we were going to go. And I'm so glad that we did it.
Yeah, I know. I was feeling the same way too. I was half asleep getting on this call, and I think the common theme every time, I feel like a broken record, is the more you share, the more you grow, the more you share, the more it releases all that tension, that tightness, and that like stiffness. And
Yeah.
yeah, I was just, when you were talking about the Dodger Stadium, I was trying to think, that was 2020.
2021.
That was 21.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I thought it was 2020. Okay, so that makes the
Yeah.
timelines even interesting. So yeah, this has been 2 years in the working then, really only. Holy crap. Yeah, I thought it was three. So yeah,
No,
this is still
it
two
is.
years.
Yeah. We're 2024. So it has been 3 years.
Well, that incident was, but when we
Yeah.
talked, it was only been 2 years.
Yeah. It
So
was 2022. You're right. Yeah.
yeah, that's what I mean. It's
Yeah.
been like 2.5 years. And then last year was when we
Yeah.
decided to, so yeah,
Yeah.
things can
Fast.
perpetuate really quickly. Positive momentum is really powerful, and negative momentum is powerful. And which side do you want to be on,
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing again, is we didn't know where this is coming from. We don't know where it's going. We just want to keep sharing. And the more I share it with people, I get more nuggets of people being interested. In the next couple of weeks, we're gonna dissect, see where we want to go, and we have some interesting people that are in mind, and we can't wait to share it with you guys. So we'll be here every single Tuesday, 6:30 PST, having more conversations that are open about what it means to just have a relationship with your father. I think that's what I want to address to people more, is that key piece. So just keep it simple. It's a conversation with my dad that I get to have every single day, and um we can listen to it again if we ever feel like there's something that we don't remember. There's something we get to put out to you guys that you guys can share and take it home to your family. If there's a curious thought that you had, or just have never even considered it. So I think that's what we want to address here is just be open. When you're ready, you're ready. And if the people around you want to be ready as well, be the person to do that, you know?
Yeah, love it, man. Cool. Love you, bro. And glad we're doing this. And everybody have a safe 4th of July.
Yes.
Remember, you have 10, was that 8 fingers and 2 thumbs, right? Make sure you have your whole hands with you on the 5th of July. Don't do anything stupid. You come back with all your hands in place. Don't be stupid, and enjoy yourself. And watch out for that heavy drinking and driving and drinking and going to the lakes and rivers. And I'm being really real about this. There's just stories after stories where these holidays, they're fun to celebrate, but too much pleasure is, you could lose your life just like that. So, and you won't be able to have conversations with your son like I have. So, anyways, we'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel, every Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. PST. We'll see you then. Thanks, guys.